Boxing, a prize-winning combat sport based on strength, reflexes, and endurance. Beginning in ancient Greek Olympics within 688 BC, it made its way towards America within the 19th, 20th century. Now ESPN ranked boxing as the most difficult sport in the world. Some of the most famous boxers here in the US are Joe Frazier, Joe Louis, Jake LaMotta, Floyd Patterson, and Mike Tyson. However, none of these professionals were compared to the legend Muhammad Ali. As the youngest heavyweight champion fighter and the first to graduate high school, he was considered the greatest based not only in his boxing career, but political and cultural stand in public and before the court. Before changing his name to Muhammad Ali, Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. was born on January 17, 1942, to a middle-class family in Louisville, Kentucky. There wasn't much about his childhood until the day he was introduced to boxing. On October 1945, at the Columbia Auditorium, during the Louisville Home Show, Cassius' bike was stolen. At that moment, he was with policeman Joe Martin, saying he would whoop whoever stole it. However, Martin replied with, "Well, you better learn how to fight before you start challenging people that you're gonna whoop." That moment served as a turning point in Cassius' life. Between 1945 and 1956, Cassius established almost his whole life to boxing. Even his younger brother Rudy once replied with, "All the time, he used to ask me to throw rocks at him. I thought he was crazy, but he dodged every one. No matter how many I threw, I could never hit him." Growing up, he trained with Joe Martin and legendary boxer cutman Chuck Baddock, participating in almost 108 amateur bouts. By the time he turned 18, he participated in the 1960 Summer Olympics in Rome. He won 6 Kentucky Golden Glove titles, 2 National Golden Glove titles, and an Amateur Athletic Union national title. However, what made it a turning point was his light heavyweight gold medal against Zbigniew Pierpnowski. The most memorable moment in his career would be his fight against Sonny Liston. Already world heavyweight champion, Sonny Liston was bypassed the most intimidated fighter in his days. He was considered indestructible, throwing large jabs with hands the size of rocks. However, that never scared or concerned Cassius. In fact, all he ever did was talk about him. He would do nothing but talk, taunt, and provoke his enemy, which is how he got the name the Louisville Lip. The fight began on February 24th, 1964. However, due to an unexpected bout from technical knockout, they set up a rematch on May 25th a year later. This was the fight that changed Cassius' career. The two most prominent moments was round 1 when Cassius stood over his opponent, which serves as the most iconic Century Sports photo, and then round 2 when he won with the anchor punch. He then proclaimed himself as the world's youngest heavyweight champion. Now, what led to his big turning point in history first began when he converted to a black Muslim group, the Nation of Islam. At first, they never recruited him due to his boxing life, but then changed their minds once he defeated Sonny Liston. Under guidance from Malcolm X, he changed Cassius' name to Cassius X, similar to Malcolm X. Then their leader, Elijah Muhammad, changed it to Muhammad Ali, which meant praiseworthy one. He then became an official member on March 6, 1964. Now a member of a group based on being subversive, Muhammad and Elijah followed their creed through rallies and proving their allegiance to what they believed in. However, when you think about it, Muhammad may have gone a little too far with his new cultural standards and beliefs by becoming a target through his speeches and retaliations for civil rights and separatism. By stating white people are the devil, it made him anathema to white Christian America and truly defending black people's rights. What made it worse from him was mentioning a combat to boxing during an interview. against Elijah's orders. He then resigned Ali's position, with Mr. Muhammad Ali plainly acting the fool to the whole world and only speaking to him as Cassius Clay. He then converted to Sunni Islam in 1975 and finally Sufism in 2005. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. was preventing nationalist forces from unifying Vietnam into a communist government, or simply a government with no rules. So President Lyndon B. Johnson used considerable resources, focusing all military effort and personnel towards the issue. Many people were getting drafted and being forced to help out in Vietnam, including Ali. This is where the turning point in history because of him takes place. In 1964, he failed the test due to writing and spelling skills. However, 2 years later, he was reclassified as 1A, making him completely eligible to be drafted into the military and was said to serve as entertainment or spokesman. However, during that year, he was still part of the Nation of Islam, so he refused the draft, saying, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Congs. They bear arms or kills against my religion, and I can conscientious in any war in which the lives of human beings are being taken." By refusing to go to war, he was considered a conscientious objector, so for almost 5 years he was led into a struggling court case, Clay versus the United States. From then, he tried multiple times to appeal his claim towards the board, but they all denied. They eventually had his boxing license and position as world heavyweight champion suspended. He was convicted guilty for violating Universal Military Training and Service Act, being sentenced for 5 years with a fine of $10,000. During his trial, Ali gained support from the public. More and more people began to turn against the Vietnam War, truly seeing Ali's point of view, along with many colleges and universities. June 28, 1971, the Supreme Court reversed his sentence and conviction, only because the government couldn't show specifically what claims were rejected and sustained. Ali's conscientious objection set the standards that in order to qualify for conscientious objection, you must first explain your opposition to war in any form, make sure it's based on religious, moral, or ethnical beliefs, and also make sure it is sincere. He was also given back his boxing license to the 1st, 8th, and 14th Amendment. Once he retired from boxing in 1981, his life legacy didn't end there. Now becoming a philanthropist and social activist, he developed the raise funds for the Muhammad Ali Parkinson Center, a foundation center in Arizona designed to helping those with Parkinson's disease, including himself, through therapy, education, research, and treatment. Other programs he was associated with include the Special Olympics, where he lit the fire for the games, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Along with that, he worked with helping nations like Afghanistan and North Korea, supplying medical aid to Cuba during their downfall, and providing almost 232 million meals to the world's hungry. His biggest accomplishment was with public affairs during the Gulf War. In the year 1990, he traveled to Iraq to negotiate with 5th President of Iraq and eventually dictator Saddam Hussein upon the release of 15 American hostages. Due to his victory, he was later declared as a United Nations Messenger of Peace. In the end, Muhammad Ali is still one of the most recognized and admired figures in the world because of his role as a warrior, legitimate, and activist. In his boxing career, he defeated every top fighter during his time, being called #1 Fighter of the Year by Ring Magazine. For his contribution to society, he was awarded dozens of medals and awards like Presidential Medal of Freedom, Germany's Otto Hahn Peace Medal, XMBA Human Spirit Award, and many more. He received so many, President Jimmy Carter cited him as Mr. International Friendship. However, in the end, what made this man a turning point was his actions in court, with his landmark in U.S. Supreme Court ruling on standards qualifying for conscientious objection classification, one of the most important legal events of the era. Other benefits came from his other cases that involved warrantless surveillance, copyright, publicity protection, and bargaining contract. This is why Muhammad Ali is still and always considered the greatest.